You could go ahead and tiptoe through your life, digging in the dirt, you can stress on the strife, but I'm gonna fly past the worry and the pain today. I'm flying on faith, flying on faith. I'm flying on faith, faith. You could cry all night about the things that you hate, so dissatisfied in so many ways, but I'm gonna find a way to celebrate today. I'm flying on faith, flying on faith. I'm flying on faith, flying on faith. Picked up my baggage and I threw it out the door.
Good morning and welcome to Be Radiant, where we offer an opportunity for authentic community to build and empower you to live a radiant, full life, full of light, hope, and love. With that in mind, we will bring you relevant information each week to equip you to live your best life. We believe that in his presence is fullness of joy, and at his right hand are pleasures forevermore. And in that method and in that vein, we will bring you information to help you live radiant. So today we have Miss Susan Smith. She is a coastal financial consultant with Thrivent. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Susan into the room because she is going to help us today with our finances. You know, that little dirty word that we don't want to talk about. I wrestled with what to call this today, but let me bring Susan on in the room. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
You know, I wrestled, Susan, with what to call today. I started to call it Let's Talk Finances. But then I said, you know what? We need to put our in there. We got to take some ownership for this thing. We need to take care of our finances. And so I made sure I put that one little word in there, because if you leave that word out, you leave too much wiggle room for people. And so I wanted to make sure that that was in there. How are you this morning?
I am well. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. How are you?
I'm doing well. I tell you, it's a beautiful morning and I am blessed. So I am thankful that you are here with us. Can you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So I am originally from South Carolina, a little small town, Winsboro, South Carolina. It's about 30 minutes north of Columbia. And but I moved to Savannah in 2005, so I consider myself local now. And you know, really, when I think about the purpose of this conversation, you know, this morning, it leads me to think about my why. And so I am a wife. Well, first, I'm a believer. So my practice is a Christian-based practice. But beyond that, Susan is a mom of twin boys. Oh, so wow. This morning, you may or may not hear them in the background. I have to admit, I'm in my office, but they are 6 years old and they're 6 years old. But besides that, you know, I really have always had a heart to serve. And so when I think about what I do on a day-to-day basis and the why behind that, I am pressing every day for my family, but also, you know, my goal is really to change the face of financial services, you know, for Savannah and beyond, wherever my reach can be, whatever God will allow.
All right. Well, we definitely welcome you here. And can you tell us a little bit more about Thrivent, the company that you work with?
Yeah. So Thrivent has actually been around since 1902. We were originally a Lutheran-based organization. Now, I'm not Lutheran, you know, by heritage or marriage or anything else, but because Thrivent is also a not-for-profit, the money that would normally go to the government in taxes, we're able to give back to our members so that they can give to church or charity of their choosing. So it's a very unique approach we have to financial services. Because of that member ownership, back in 2002, it was put to a vote to be open to the broader Christian faith. And so that's how individuals like myself and others were able to become advisors and Thrivent members as a result of that. So
Wow.
if you think about organizations like USAA, there are fraternal benefit societies as well that you can kind of think about that have a common bond.
Mhm.
And that common bond is what allows a person to be a member. For us, our common bond is Christianity.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Especially that part about giving back to the community. That's one of my passions. And so the fact that a company takes their profits and give them back to their employees and then also to the community, I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, and then they're giving such great information, helping us to be better, I say servants to the kingdom, when we are good stewards with what God has entrusted us with. So great. I am so excited to hear about that.
Mhm.
I hear a lot of talk about financial advisors and, needing a financial advisor, but how can you give us some information? How do we know if we need a financial advisor? Some of us stop and say, I don't have any money. I don't have anything to invest. I make $10 an hour. Why do I need a financial advisor? So tell us how do we know if we need a financial advisor?
Yeah, so that is the common misconception, I would say, that the average person doesn't need an advisor, and many don't. I will say, whether you are making six figures or just kind of at a everyday kind of hourly income, that part is less the question as far as whether you need an advisor or not, because an advisor should be more of an accountability partner, someone that's coming alongside to just help you in the day-to-day decisions that you're making and the big life decisions that you're making, as life changes. So knowing whether you need an advisor is more so based on whether you have a desire to know about personal finance, whether you feel you have the time to do that, because some people may realize that they need it, or they need advice, and they need to find someone, but Google is like a blessing and a curse sometimes, because you can go there and you can find information, but it's a matter of whether or not that information is right, whether it's right for you. And so you'll have people that share information, just kind of like a broad brush, generic information. And so, like, one of the things that I talk about whenever I'm speaking to anyone, I have to share that the information I am sharing is not to be viewed as advice, because unless I'm sitting down with someone and getting a better understanding of the whole of their financial situation, I can't provide advice.
Right.
I can give tips. I can, tell you in general what you might want to do, but I can't give you advice, because it wouldn't be good if I don't really know anything, about your situation. So again, it would be if you have an interest in personal finance, or if you don't have an interest, that might be a reason why you would need to seek an advisor. If you have a complicated like tax or business circumstance, potentially that you need a little more advice on, it's good to have, I would say, a professional network, or a professional team, especially if you have a business. You have a tax professional, a financial advisor. All of those components kind of need to come together to help you best structure your business. But I would say, while there are financial advisors that have an account minimum, so unless you are coming to them and you're ready to invest $50,000 or $100,000, you kind of, they're in that place of, you don't need to come to me, basically, because I can't help you. So that's one of the things really that drove my why, and the reason why I'm building my practice under the umbrella of Thrivent. My dad was a business owner for over 6 decades, from the age of 13. And at that time, throughout those years, he accumulated a great deal of money. However, there was never a point really that a professional, a financial professional of any sort, banker, otherwise, that could have imparted knowledge to him, so that he would be better positioned in the future, or his family would be better positioned when he was no longer here.
Right.
So he will be gone from us 10 years or 11 years this April. And there was a life insurance that was enough to bury him, and a little bit beyond that when he passed 10 years ago. And when you think about that, putting 2 kids through college, raising 2 other kids, and my brother continued my dad's business. However, my mom will be 83 this year, and there was this policy that allowed us to comfortably bury him, but we are still working to make sure she is okay.
Wow.
And so there's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so I do what I do because I want people to be knowledgeable about their finances, especially business owners. They put their heads down, they're working, they're supporting their family, they're pouring into the community. But then at the end of the day, if there's not a plan, if there is nothing that they've put in place, or if they put maybe the wrong pieces in place because they're listening to, what someone down the street was able to do, and sometimes that works, but it may not. And so knowing that you don't have to have some huge amount of money amassed as an investment already, you can begin investing at least with Thrivent, you can begin investing with as little as $50 a month.
Wow.
And so I think even when I was growing up, and I gotten into college and things like that, I thought I had to have some exorbitant amount of money to invest. I thought I needed to know more about investing and, saving money and things like that before I even went to sit down with somebody. And Thrivent, for me, started with me having an insurance policy. I had just gotten married, and we knew we needed insurance because I knew about that. I knew about the purpose of insurance. But I didn't really know what I needed.
Right.
I didn't really know how to set myself up for success, or how our family could, be successful as far as the decisions that we made. Because I didn't always make the best decisions because I wasn't taught, So I would say, when you know better, you do better. There's that saying. So
Absolutely. Well, I tell you, when I put the advertisement out, a young lady, a single mother that I know and did not know she had consulted you, chimed in the comments and said, I know her. I really like her. I had an opportunity to sit down with her, and I am going to be working with her more. And so I was like, this is right. That's exactly who it's for. It's for that single mother, like you said, that may only have that $50, $100 a month to invest, but needs to have some understanding about how to set herself and her child up for success. So the good thing about Susan and her practice is it's not just for the 6-figure person, but it's also for that person that's working that hourly job. So thank you, Susan. I really appreciate that. And if you have questions as we're on here today, please type those questions in. And as Susan said, she can't give you advice because she does not know your personal situation, and you'd have to sit down with her to establish that. But she can give you some tips and some general information. So if you have some questions about your finances, type those in, and I'll make sure that I post them on the screen so that she can have an opportunity to speak to those things. And with that being said, Susan, can you tell us what specific services you offer through Thrivent, and how do you determine what services are right for a specific client?
Yes. So, as far as services are concerned, I can help people. I'm licensed, whether it is for a life insurance, annuities, investments. An annuity is a self-funded pension. I will toss that out there, because sometimes you just toss out terminology and people don't know what things are. But I can help people with debt management, wealth accumulation, wealth transfer. So all of those pieces. Debt management is, sometimes that situation that we experience or are needing to get out of really in the beginning of life, hopefully. Even if you,
well, Susan,
even if it's in the middle of life, I was going to say, even if it's in the middle of life, the goal would be for it to be in the beginning, maybe when you're, finding your way. But sometimes that's not the case. But what I would say is, as you move along, the goal is really to begin to accumulate wealth, because that is how change happens. That is how the wealth gap that is so tremendous right now and is continuing to get wider and wider, especially with this pandemic. And it's not just a race gap. From a wealth standpoint, that is a tremendous gap. But there is a gap in earnings for women versus men. So if you think about single parent households and things like that, so that's a whole other thing. But, advising people on coming up with a spending plan. Yes. So I follow something called the 5 money mindset. That's surviving, struggling, stable, secure, and surplus. So
say that again for us.
Surviving, struggling, stable, secure, and surplus. So with those words, there's no dollar amount that's attached to that. But I have clients that are on both ends of the spectrum, some that are making over 6 figures, but when I talk with them about their relationship with money, they feel like they're in a place of struggle. And then I have other clients, many of them are in nonprofit, they're faith leaders like yourself. And when I talk with them about their finances, they feel like they're in a place of security or surplus because their needs are being met. They're living within their means. The bank account may not look the way they want it to, but they're being provided for. So it's life insurance, retirement products, anything you would need likely that has to do with finance, I can probably provide guidance on that.
Okay. You said 2 things that really hit home for me. One of them is making sure they have life insurance. You said that several times. I look at people and they are driving, Mercedes, or they've got the fastest charger, or they've got a new Tesla. And the first thing that hits my mind now is, I wonder if, because I saw a lot of these after Christmas. A lot of new cars in my neighborhood.
Yes, with the paper tag, they are ready.
And I was like, I wonder if they have enough insurance on themselves that if they were to die today, and I know that sounds morbid, but if they were to leave the earth today, would their family have to let that car go because they couldn't afford it? Or would they be able to keep it because they have enough insurance that's going to cover the house, the car, education for their children? Do they have they put the practical things in place before they went out and bought that beautiful new toy? And they're cute now, because there's one
Yeah.
down the street that I was like, woo,
Woo.
I like it. However, it can't be in
Yeah.
my garage because I'm not in a place where I can have that in my garage and make sure that my family has everything they need. And maybe they do. But that's what people like Susan are there for, to help you be able to afford the things you want while you're here. And also when you're not here, that
Yes.
your family is okay. And then the second thing that you said that really captured my attention is putting those budgets into place. That's, you know, how to spend down, how to get yourself debt free.
Yes.
That is phenomenal, especially as you said, for young people that are starting out. I wish I had some of the information that you've just talked about right now for myself when my husband and I first got married, because we knew nothing,
Yes.
nothing about money, because we came from very poor backgrounds. We didn't know how to handle or manage money. And I will tell you, young people, yeah, there. I saw that Ambria Berksteiner, a beautiful young lady, smart, intelligent young lady out there doing her thing as an engineer. This kind of program is for people like her, so that they don't end up, when they're my age, thinking about the financial mistakes they made at the beginning, that unfortunately sometimes those things trail you and they stay with you. They do. They do. Right. Oh, and Eddie, a friend of ours from Ghana, said a great program, watching from Ghana. Thank you for being in the room, Eddie. Thank you. Thank you. This is for anybody. This information is great for anyone. All right. All right, Susan. So you've told us a little bit about the services and the company. Can you give us, this is Financial Wellness Month. Is that what I'm to understand?
That is correct.
All right. So Financial Wellness Month, give us a few practical tips. And remember, everybody, this is not advice. These are just tips to kind of help put in place. If you want some advice and you want to know how to handle your specific situation, we have information now. I just posted it in the chat that you can actually contact Susan, and she'll talk more about that later. But she's going to give us a few practical tips, some things that we can put into place immediately and start seeing a few differences in our finances. Go ahead, Susan. Let us know.
Yeah, so some of the things that you can do, just I would say an exercise that you can start with. And this is something even that I do in my own practice and my own personal finance. And that would be to look at the previous 3 to 6 months of your bank statements, credit card statements, if you use those, and just take a highlighter. Or, and that's if you are a paper person and want to print them out. You could be like me and switch to digital and download the PDFs of your monthly statements, and then highlight in, use 3 colors, needs, wants, and giving. And so when you go through that exercise, and you really have to be intentional about that process. And it's a history lesson because you've already spent the money. So there's nothing you can do about it, you know, what's already done. However, it can help inform the future.
Yes.
And so you can use that. You find, you know, spending leaks. You find areas where, you know, $2 here, $5 there, $20, all of that is adding up. And if at the end of the day, you're feeling like, you know, at the end of this month, I have more month than money. You have to reevaluate, because there's one of 2 things that needs to happen. Either it's making more money and finding a way to do that, or spending less. And so many right now, I would say especially, are in a place where they have cut out everything. And, you know, there's no room for discretionary spending. And that can put you in one of 2 places, either just the feeling that there is no hope, that there is nothing that they can do to get out of that, you know, circumstance, or it just makes them realize it's like, like a hands off. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because there's nothing else I can do.
Yeah.
But I would say don't lose hope, because even if it is $5, now I did say beginning to invest at $50 a month, but you can also, if it's just $5 that you're saving and putting aside into a bank account or anything else, and then you use that to begin to build an emergency reserve, you can do that as well. There's nothing that says you can't do that. Sometimes a financial advisor is coming alongside as that accountability partner, just that person that's, coaching you, running along in the journey with you. So, my goal as an advisor is to be that person that you come to when you're trying to make a financial decision, before you make that decision, and it be something that, is detrimental to your plan.
Right.
So working with people that are coachable is really, really key, because if someone is providing you advice, if you take that advice and don't utilize it, then it's really a matter of, okay, what was the purpose of going to sit down with that person? If you're going to listen to what they're saying but then go and do whatever, and go back to what you were doing before, if it wasn't working and you're looking for alternatives, then seek the alternatives.
All right. All right. Well, Susan, what I got from that, I heard a few things. Make sure that we pull 3 to 6 months of bank statements and credit card statements. If we're using credit cards, we need to go back through with 3 colors, highlighting things that that were needs that we actually purchased, things that were wants, and things that were giving, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's a great exercise. So you can kind of see where your money is going. Where's the bulk of your money going? You're right. I can honestly tell you, when my husband and I was 19 when I got married. I was a baby. He stole me from the crib, y'all. And 19, did not know how to even begin to spend or think about money. And in the process of that, I would love to have been able to do this exercise then. I promise you, the majority of it went to wants, and they were probably very frivolous wants. And they were wants that once you got it, a few months from then, you weren't even able to do anything with it, or, and then you were sitting there thinking, now, okay, I spent all my money on my wants, but I have nothing for what I need. So that's a really good exercise to put in place. Thank you for that. And then I heard you say something else. If you can elaborate on this a little bit for us. You said emergency fund. I heard emergency fund. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So a lot of advisors and coaches will share rules of thumb. And, they might say that you need to have 3 to 6 months of expenses, not income, 3 to 6 months of expenses set aside. And a different rule of thumb also would be having 10 to 15 times your salary in life insurance. But I am a little more intentional about how I help people dial in those numbers.
Okay.
So some people have a number when it comes to how much they need to have in an emergency reserve if something were to happen. And because part of the financial piece is having a sense of security. I mean, you don't need to look at money or view money as a goal, or an objective. So I'm not at all saying that. However, we live in a world where day to day money is needed. So from a psychological standpoint, some people have a number in their head as far as the amount of money they need to have in a savings account and or investment account, something that's easily accessible for emergencies.
Yes.
Because life is going to happen. And it's really a matter of whether or not we are prepared for it. And like when I talked about that surviving, struggling, stable, secure, and surplus, having wedges in place so that when life happens, you don't go from stable all the way back to surviving because tires blew out. You know, that the AC went out and is not covered under warranty. You know, things like that. You have to make sure that that reserve is shored up.
Absolutely.
It is sad to think that the average household, I don't know all the percentages and things like that, but I know that one of them is that the average household would not be able to meet a $400 obligation if, you know, something came up, like the tire situation going out. And we have to get into a better place, a better mindset. And this is not everyone that does that. So I am not speaking in general terms, but to wear your wealth, to drive your wealth, that's not going to close that gap, that wealth gap. That's not going to get us to where we need to be, where we say we want to be. We have to make sure that our actions are aligning with our intentions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're right. And you made a statement that I've heard a lot of wealthy people, and I got an opportunity probably a couple years ago to come into a room where everyone in there were millionaires. And first of all, I had to kind of look like, why am I even
why am I here?
You know, how did I get here kind of thing?
Yeah.
But the what I kept hearing is that a lot of things they don't drive off of want. That's not the lane that they drive in. And a lot of people who don't have the means, a lot of times, and like you said, it's not everyone. This is not a blanket statement, nor is it a condemnation. But a lot of times, when we don't have it, I've heard this statement: I work hard, I deserve this. Yeah.
Yes.
And you know what? And let me just be completely transparent with you. I've made that statement. I work hard, I deserve this.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, probably 9 times out of 10, when I say that and I get it, I'm like, oh my God, you know what? Next week I've got to do ABC, and I just spent. So, and you know what though? I learned later in life that I'll take it right back, and I'm like, okay, Valerie, let's do better. Let's do better. Go ahead. You were about to say something.
Yeah, I have two things with that. So the first thing is the fact that this would be, I guess, another practical tip. So before you, whether it's in the grocery store or department store or anything else, or Amazon, oh my goodness, in this world of sheltering in place and being, you know, at home, we're on our computers more. So it's very easy to drop some things in that cart and it shows up right at the door. But if you are going to purchase something, one of the things that you want to do is, before you just make that purchase, walk it up to the counter or add it into a cart, stop and think about it. Maybe put it in the cart and walk away. You know, and it's like, if you do that, the goal would be to think about, do I actually need to hit, you know, send on this cart? Do I actually need to take this to that counter? Walk around with it in your shopping cart and things like that before you check out.
Absolutely.
There's a difference between like impulse purchases or impulse buying, and being intentional about your purchases. So that's one thing that, like, my dad, oh my goodness. So he didn't have, or use credit cards, things like that. So that's another reason why I had to kind of learn some things by making some mistakes. So I am not coming from a place of perfection as a financial advisor. I learned better, and I began to do better.
Yes.
But he would not, if he didn't have it, he wasn't spending it. However, if he saw something or needed something that he wanted, or that we needed or wanted, and he felt it was a worthy purchase to make, he made it happen. He was able to do that. But it was because he saved along the way.
Yeah.
The difference was he didn't necessarily share that with us. So sometimes parents do things that benefit us. If we don't share the knowledge, then we don't know.
Absolutely.
So I don't knock him for that, because he wasn't an educator, and in that way he was providing for his family. But so again, I would say, don't just buy it. Pause. Even if it's a $5 purchase, because that adds up.
It does. It does.
So that would be the one thing. The other thing would be the fact that if you come up with the spending plan, and I call it a spending plan because psychologically, I don't like to talk about budgets, even as a financial advisor, because there's this sense that you are keeping something from yourself. You mentioned, like, your keyword just when you were talking was I've worked hard, I deserve this. Yes, if you work hard, you deserve. But it's a question of, is what I'm doing aligning with my long-term goals? Am I going to do something now or make a decision now that can affect what happens in the future in a positive or a negative way? Like, what is going to happen? And so we have to be intentional about our spending. And one thing that you can do in that spending plan is, whether it's $5 or $50 that you're setting aside for those wants, if you say to yourself, it's almost like paying yourself, what do you call it? I can't even think, but giving yourself just a reserve for those moments when you say, I deserve this.
Yes.
But if that wants account is at $100, and after the month goes by, you've spent only $50. Well, guess what? Next month you have $150 in that wants account. And that's how you save for vacations. That's how you, put away for Christmas and things like that, so that you don't overspend. That's the thing. We don't pay ourselves first. And that's a hard thing to say even right now, because I know there are so many people in dire straits. I know that. But if we do not pay ourselves something first, then being able to continue a spending plan or a budget in that sense is just like a diet. It's like you start losing weight and things like that. It's great. And then for some reason you get off track. And then it just, you're like, okay, I'm done. I messed up and I'm done now. So a budget can be the same way. If you feel like you're depriving yourself from something, that part is very much psychological.
Yeah. I like that spending plan, a spending plan. I like that. And then having accounts like a wants account. That is great. So that, this is how much I can have in expendable income and no more than that.
Yeah.
That is where we are. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, most banks will, they've gone strides to help you do that. where you can have multiple accounts. You do need to be cautious that if your bank has account minimums, then you have to be mindful of things like that if you have multiple accounts. But some banks do not have account minimums. I don't work for the credit union, but this would be a shameless plug for Thrivent Federal Credit Union. I do have to say that, but their account minimum is $1. And so you can start anywhere, and it's just a matter of putting those things aside. And when I provide guidance, one of the things we talk about is having those needs, wants, giving. And with couples, you might want to have 2 wants accounts. So it's like my fun tokens are my fun tokens. Okay. And yours are yours.
I like that.
Sometimes you have to do that, but segment your spending. And I can, tell anyone more if they have questions about that and how to structure that.
Yeah.
Because it's working if your savings account is increasing, whether it's by $5 or $50.
Wow. Yeah. This has been so rich, Susan. We're going to have you back because I'm thinking of questions now. You talked about education. I know that you do some education with children as well to teach them how to have those 3 areas: needs, wants, and giving. And my grandbabies have the piggy bank from Thrivent that has those 3 areas of saving, and they love putting their coins in and their dollar bills in. So it's great. And they're too young to kind of understand the segments, but they're learning how to put money away. Exactly. So thank you for that. And so if you are interested in talking with Susan, I've put in her website, her Facebook, and her LinkedIn, but Susan's also going to type in an email for you that you can reach out to her via email, because she's a wealth of knowledge. And what I like, again, and I will say it, is the fact that her company is nonprofit. So what they do is they give profits, the money that is made, they give back to their employees and back to their community. So this is, to me, it is true kingdom work. It is teaching people how to be good stewards of what God has given them. And then it's also, they're being good stewards of what's coming into their coffers, they say, as well. Yes. So that just jazzes me. Now, Susan, you mentioned that you had some books that you like to get to people who are interested. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so a few books I have, and I have them right here. Let's see. So one of the ones, yes, Erica. I don't know if they're right. I apologize. As I said in the very beginning, I am a mom first. And yes. Okay. So the first one is this one, Your New Money Mindset. So this book was written by our former CEO and a psychologist. So it helps you figure out the mindset that you have with money. So sometimes when we spend, we don't necessarily know why we're spending the way we're spending. And so one of the first keys to even coming up with a spending plan, to being on the same page with your spouse, any of those things, you have to start at the root. And so how did your parents handle money? How did the people around you handle money? So sometimes that's a huge influence on you and you don't even realize it. And so this has a quiz inside. It has some stories and things like that, but it has a quiz inside that's very insightful in the way you spend. So that's one thing. One that I wanted to suggest to people. So this one, I'll wait and save that one. So my office is a Dave Ramsey SmartVestor Pro office. And so basically that means not that Thrivent is in any way becoming or joining with, I guess you would say, because some of the practices or mindset that Dave Ramsey follows is a little bit different from our philosophies. However, practically, the information that is shared, general in nature, can apply to a lot of people's situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the information that's in here, so Everyday Millionaires by Chris Hogan is another book that I have to offer. One that I like as an entrepreneur is Entre Leadership.
Okay.
So those two, and a suggestion if someone is looking for, you know, something to read and just really be feel empowered and feel as though they are. We have this one, Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. So I did a book study at the end of last year, and this is by Eugene Mitchell. He is a former financial advisor or financial consultant. And so he wrote this book because he started a movement, a program that the goal was to get $5 billion in life insurance out into the world, basically, and get that in force.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did that very intentionally by working with advisors in his practice
Mm-hmm.
to get people covered.
Yes.
So that, you know, because we really can't earn our way to wealth.
Mm.
And so that's something that we kind of miss
Mm-hmm.
because we're trying to use the day-to-day income as opposed to having multiple streams of income.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's one. This one is a reading recommendation.
Okay.
I do have a couple of copies of this, but the others I have several copies of.
Okay. So if
Yeah.
you're interested in one of those books that Susan mentioned, she's gonna, if you'll go ahead, Susan, and type your email address in.
Yeah, I was
And,
looking and it doesn't
okay, I can do it. I
allow
can
me
do it.
to.
It's Susan dot
Not
Smith at
Smith.
Thrivent. Okay, so go ahead and say it out loud so everyone can hear
Yeah,
you.
it's susan.smith@thrivent.com. So just your SUSAN.SMITH at Thrivent, and Thrivent is THRIVENT.com.
Okay. I just put it in there. There we go.
Yeah, I don't know why it won't allow.
Anyway, if you're interested in one of those books, let her know which title and send her an email. Also, if you're interested in hearing more information from her and possibly becoming a client, if you have some questions that you want to ask so that you can get into that place of bringing her on as your financial consultant, email her and let her know. Susan, this has been rich. I tell you, it's been good. Just the few minutes that we've been talking, I've been jotting things down over here. So I've got some more questions for you for offline. And also I want to bring you back on at some point so we can talk a little bit more about our finances, because it's something that we sometimes we're hiding money under our mattress and praying for the better day. So we've got to get beyond that and start preparing with intelligence for the better day. And I have one more question. I like to close out with this. What are you doing right now that causes you to find joy in your journey and to be radiant?
Well, I would say the first thing would be I have a daily reminder that I put on. You may not be able to see it, but this little silver bracelet says choose joy. And I've had this for a few years now. Joy was my one word a few years back, and someone gifted this to me. And God knew, I didn't know, but God knew I really needed this reminder. It came at a time when I had a pretty hard year. And just having a simple reminder like this was everything, in that time period. But what brings me joy? Family. And even though I have been working from home, so I'm sure there was a point during this last 53 minutes that everyone will hear my twin boys in the background. But they bring me joy. And, being able to, without skipping a beat, when everything shut down in March, having the ability to say, all right, I pivot. I'm online now, but I can still provide, advice to my clients. I can still comfort them in times of loss, because I have to, deal with that as well. But that brings me joy. Walking along the journey with people, seeing credit scores go up and receiving emails about, accomplishing goals, paying off credit cards, celebrating with people. That brings me joy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Susan, I thank you so much. Having you on today brings me joy. So I have enjoyed. I thank you guys for coming on today. I hope that you heard something that gave you some tips on how to move forward and how to make a difference in your finances and begin to own them. Like I said, let's talk about our finance. Not just about finances. We want to get ourselves together so that we can be good stewards of what the Lord has entrusted to us. So until next Saturday, I want you to be radiant. Make sure you are building and empowering others in your life to live radiant lives. Blessings and have a great Saturday.
You could go ahead and tiptoe through your life, digging in the dirt. You can stress on the stride.